So today, guys, we're going to be going through how to launch a six-figure group program. You know, we almost created a new genre of kind of program. And so, you know, you may sort of think about it just for a minute. There's coaching and there's mentoring. And inside of mentoring, I always like mentoring a little bit more than coaching. I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with coaching, but what I love about mentoring is that mentoring is about allowing a guide up the mountain. And so what I'm going to be talking about today is not just a group coaching program, but rather a group mentorship program. And what I found is in my time, there's lots of coaching programs, but the problem is with that is the definition in my term is the fact that a coach comes to help you really clarify and verify, keep accountability, and that person, that coach, doesn't necessarily kind of guide you up the mountain. Whereas with mentors, the idea is with the programs that I run, I'm about mentoring, right? So inside of Relevancy Engine, we have mentors that allow our entrepreneurs to, of course, get to the point of having the fundamentals to be able to grow a seven-figure business. And then inside of Project Nuclear, where we help people build multi-million-dollar businesses, the coaches have built, the mentors have built their own seven-figure businesses, and in some cases actually even exited them. And they're now mentoring our entrepreneurs to being able to build multi-million-dollar empires. And so, you know, this whole context happened in terms of launching my own, really, back in September. So I blew my business up. I was flying back from Utah, and I said, you know what, I don't want to do this anymore. My past business, it was just selling content. And so, you know, I kind of came to the conclusion of what I wanted to do, and then I essentially launched a brand new program, developed it, launched it in less than 30 days. And it did incredibly well. It's done multiple seven figures in revenue since then. And, you know, this year alone, it'll do somewhere between $4 to $5.5 million. Just that specific product. And I said, you know what, at the end of the day, that's nothing special to me, right? And so I think a lot of the time you may be in a point where you have an audience and perhaps you're selling something that's lower ticket. In my case, I was selling something that's $2,000 back in September. And the problem with group coaching programs or group mentoring programs is like, well, there's only one of me, so how do I do this? Now, today I'm not necessarily going to go through that. That's the video series, the little video that I put together, a little article I put together for tomorrow that I'm going to be launching up. But what I'm going to be going through today is once you know how to leverage your program, how to leverage your offer, how do you put it out in less than 30 days? Now, some of the context just for you is this. This is for you if you either have a product or program that perhaps is, you know, more high ticket, but perhaps is just not the right one. And by high ticket, I mean highly transformative. Or you have a lower ticket item, or perhaps you have expertise and you have knowledge and an unfair advantage that you haven't yet actually put out into the marketplace, and you want to be able to do that. And so a lot of the time we build an audience, but we can only really capture so much of that audience with the different offers that we have. And then further, what I've found is, of course, when you are mentoring people, you have far greater success. I mean, our success rates in our programs are phenomenal. Inside of Project Nuclear, it is ridiculous how fast people are creating momentum. Literally, in some cases, doubling their business in less than 60 days, doubling profit in less than 30 days. And one person that actually doubled their profit, 10x their profit in the first 40 days. And this comes back to the fact that, of course, when you're mentoring, you can have a higher level of impact in that person's life versus just a coaching. So that's what we're going to be going through today. I do assume that you have at some level, some audience, okay? If you're starting in a brand new niche and you're starting in a brand new audience and you're starting in you know, everything's new, it will be more difficult. It will cost some money to be able to do. It's not impossible. So that's one disclaimer. Secondarily, if you're not good at what you do, if you're not what I would consider a master at what you do, or at least an expert at what you do, then I highly advise you not to do this. So, you know, if you haven't built a business and you're going to try to mentor people on how to build a business, just stop, please, and you know, just stop. That's just not cool. That's not an integrity in my belief. You can coach people, but do not mentor someone on something that you haven't done. See, I believe it's really important that when we learn something and we become knowledgeable about something, we must go and implement it and see the results for a long enough time. So we have to learn, and we have to do, and then we can teach, right? But a lot of people skip right from, oh, I read a book about it, or I went to and did 9 webinars about it. Now I'm going to go and teach that. See, mentoring is about being on the mountaintop and helping people up the mountain. That doesn't mean that you have to be the best in the world. It simply means that you have to have some real world experience. And it really irks me. It's one of my core values, and one of our core values at our business is the fact that we only work with people that are actually experts, that are actually good at what you do. So those are 2 caveats. So if it's one of those 2 pieces right now, if you don't have any audience whatsoever, it's going to be a little bit more difficult. I'm not saying it won't work, but it will be more difficult. And by audience, I mean literally you could have like 300, 500 people on an email list. You don't need to have this massive audience, especially when you're selling highly transformative, high touch, high ticket products. So just a couple disclaimers right from the get-go, because I think it's really, really, really important for you to understand that context. Now, one side note, recently been working with somebody and they're an expert in what they do. They sold a business for 7 figures plus, and they're helping other people do it. They have no audience, and they have an audience now of about 1,500 people. And she started in middle of April. It's now end of May. And she already has sales for her $8,000 program. She already has coaches hired, and she literally started from scratch. No audience, no nothing, brand new. However, the difference is that she's a master. She's really good at what she does. And it did cost her just around about $5,000 to $8,000 in advertising spend in order to essentially, what she will have, 12 of her first sales for her $8,000 product offering. So even if you don't have an audience, just remember it's either you have an audience or you have some startup capital, okay? So that is the context of this, and why I wanted to, of course, share this with you is I've done this time and time and time again with clients of ours, and they've had success. A lot of the time, they've been able to continually over and over and over again be able to hit that 6-figure bracket, or at least generate 6 figures that comes in the next 90 days. So first thing I'm going to bring you through is the overall context of relevancy. Relevancy is an offer. Relevancy is having like the high or ticket offer. And so we're first going to go through avatar. Then we're going to go through our offer, positioning, and then of course messaging. Now, after we go through this is the crux of, essentially the marketing behind the offer. Then we're going to go into the omnipresence blast. This is kind of a new sort of strategy that I first used last year that worked famously with us being able to get the relevancy engine to a place of a multiple 6-figure run rate on a monthly basis. And then on top of that, and along with that, I'm going to talk about how to essentially utilize Facebook groups, Facebook, email, and retargeting to be able to get your message in front of people, to get your conversion methods in front of people, to get people to get on the actual phone, how to indoctrinate them in terms of what your product and program actually is, and then being able to actually bring it home, and so that when you actually launch out your product, you get your first 8 to 15 customers into that high ticket program, and then from there, how to turn it into being evergreen. Because at the end of the day, I don't believe in launches. I think you should launch things once, and then it should be evergreen. So I'm not gonna go through these super deep. Joanna, if you want to link our resources, our ROI for high ticket website, you can go here, and I literally go through every single one of these pieces in depth with a video training series. So I'm going to go over this really quick because you already have the resources for this, because I want to get into the omnipresent stuff. I want to get into the conversion stuff that I've never talked about before publicly. And I don't want to bore you with this stuff because it is a little bit more boring than the more kind of sexier pieces. Okay? So, avatar, funny enough, I'm writing my book right now. I'm at about 22,000 words, and I just finished this entire piece, and I went really deep into it. And so, overall, relevancy at its core requires these 4 pieces, right? So in order to be relevant, someone has to know that you are for them, right? So at the very beginning, avatar, if you do not know what your product is actually based for, who you actually want to work with, you're never going to have an actual product that scales. You're never going to have a product that allows someone to see that you are relevant, that that product is actually relevant. The problem is, for the most part, when it comes to avatar, first problem is you feel some level of scarcity because of the fact that you've never niched down before. Quite literally, your avatar should be based on where can I take someone to where they want to go, and what is the gap, and who are those people beforehand, and who are those people after. So our avatar inside of my business is people that are generating multiple 6 figures at the minimum, and we help people bring it right up into multi 7-figure businesses. Now, the second problem with avatar is that as entrepreneurs, we don't want to put a name to ourselves. Meaning we don't want to say, oh, we only want to work with these people because we're the creators, we're the innovators. We want to continually work with new people that are exciting. As soon as there's structure, we get really, really, really scared. At least most of us, people like me. And so the problem is that we won't actually detail a specific avatar because we're too afraid to actually do it. It's a really kind of weird paradox. But without knowing exactly who you want to work with, it's incredibly difficult to be relevant to anyone because relevancy requires someone to see you. I mean, actually see you. And a lot of the time, this requires you to see you, right? So you, at the end of the day, a lot of us entrepreneurs, we have imposter syndrome, we have all these issues when we look into the mirror. The idea behind an avatar is that we see who we are and we see who we actually want to work with. And we say, that's who we want to work with, and I'm okay with working with just those people. Of course, when we were building businesses that are doing 20, 30, 40,000, we'll work with anybody because we need to get enough money in the bank. Well, if you want to be relevant, especially if you want to have a 6-figure launch, that's going to be impossible because you have to be very specific upon who you're going to work with, so that you can filter out all the people that don't need to see your stuff, and you can actually be able to segment via messaging that we'll get to in a minute with exactly who you need to be working with. So that's avatar. Once you actually have avatar, you of course then need to actually look at how you need to actually help that person. What is the offer that actually is going to allow you to help them? Now, most coaching programs I really don't like. Most group coaching programs. Oh, come to a call with me every week or twice a week and I'm going to help you. And I can't get behind that. I know that transformation happens when we go from information to actually applied implementation, right? We're getting away from the knowledge economy because there's so much knowledge. We're literally swimming in a cesspool of information that's not relevant to us. And transformation happens when we have relevant information and the ability of intimacy to be applied together. That creates, of course, transformation. That's why I don't sell content. That's why I really, truly believe in being able to sell transformation. So this doesn't mean that we need to get on the phone with everyone. This means that inside of our offer, and we'll get to this in a second, we need to have a methodology. We all need to have the equivalent of the ROI method. And we all need our offer to allow the person in a small period of time, ideally 90 days, to be able to see where they are right now and where they need to be able to go. Most people's problem is that their offer is based around every single person that comes to them. They get this person, they're like, oh, well, you know what? You're not my perfect avatar, but let me customize this a little bit. And now we have this offer, and then this offer, and this offer, and this offer. Well, you can't scale an actual program with that. You can't scale a business with that. And at the same time, you want your offer to be able to be leveraged. For the relevancy engine, I do 1 call per month. That's me, okay? That's it. I don't do welcome calls. I don't do anything else. However, I have a team of mentors, 9 people now. I have a head coach, a head of intimacy, that essentially allows that person to go from where they need to be, which is at typically $20,000 to $40,000 a month, to where they want to be, which is having the fundamentals in 90 days of being able to scale to 7 figures. Now, I'm not saying that you can scale to 7 figures in 90 days, because for the most part, that is very rare. However, we can give you the fundamentals, which is lead generation, sales, and mindset in 90 days and allow you to get to that next point. Now, inside of that offer, there's one-on-one calls with mentors, there's group calls, there's Slack access, there's content, there's all these pieces that allow for kind of fertile ground for transformation. And I think that inside of our offer, we need to look at what isn't just irresistible, but what allows that person to be like, oh, that's a shiny carrot. And that is a really, really, really core piece. We, a lot of the time inside of our offers, have to sell the carrot cake, not the carrot. A lot of people come into the relevancy engine being like, well, I want to be omnipresent, I want to be everywhere. But the problem is they don't even have a business yet. They're only making $20,000, $30,000 a month. And I say only, that's great, but they have to have the fundamentals. And so a lot of the time inside a relevancy engine, we help them with exactly what I'm talking about right here. The next piece is, of course, positioning. This is a combination of what is your methodology and what is your unfair advantage. Your unfair advantage is a combination of your skills, your talent, your expertise, your knowledge, all combined into one that allows for amplification for who you are, allowing people to connect with you in a personal philosophy kind of stage. So that is avatar, that is offer, that is positioning, and of course the last great piece is messaging. Now, of course, most of you know what this is, the SSF method, sidewalk, slow lane, fast lane. And essentially it is a methodology to know that people that are in the sidewalk need to understand their pain and problem. People in the slow lane need to see your process and your methodology and look up to you as an authority. And people in the fast lane need to understand how your offer is relevant to them so that they, of course, can go and give you their credit card number. Now, messaging in and of itself allows and extracts who our avatar is so that we're actually talking to them. Then extracts our positioning, how you're different in the marketplace, what is your blue ocean. And then, of course, allows you to be able to effectively talk to the offer, which requires, of course, us to have a methodology in the slow lane. Again, Joanna, make sure that you actually post the resources, the high ticket resources page video series, because I go through this in actual full-on detail in there, and I want to make sure that you understand this stuff, because at the end of the day, if you're not relevant, no one's ever going to buy your product. Okay? The difference between someone having a light bulb moment and someone not having a light bulb moment are these four pieces coming together, because you can have an amazing offer, but if no one knows if it's for them, if your avatar is not right, if people don't look up to you in terms of your positioning, if people don't have the right messaging, if you're just doing sales messaging versus slow lane messaging, no one's going to buy. Same thing, you can have the right messaging, but if you don't have the right offer, no one's going to buy. These four pieces together is what creates overall relevancy. And without relevancy, no one is ever going to buy your stuff, because the problem is nothing can happen at scale. What's going to end up happening is you're only going to be able to be relevant to people one-on-one. And then the problem is people want your time. People want to be able to buy your time and get your time. If you want to scale a 7-figure business, people cannot be buying your time. They have to be buying your process, and further, they have to be buying the outcome of the product. This is where most people, this is what separates a 6-figure business owner and a 7-figure business owner. If someone is buying you, you are done. You do not have a business, you have a hustle in which you are locked in a prison. This is the key of both relevancy and a 7-figure business, because at the end of the day, relevancy allows for a 7-figure business to happen. So, I'd love to give you exercises on these, but at the end of the day, go and take a look at that video series and ask some questions to allow you to actually understand this for yourself. But that in a nutshell is relevancy. Problem is, most people want to get into the ads, the content, start writing things, start doing videos, start everything else. I guarantee you, if you just take literally just a day, just half a day, just go to the beach or go to the mountains or get away from technology. For God's sakes, turn your computer off and your internet off and your phone off as much as you possibly can on a daily basis. The more I get away from technology, the more money I make. And probably the same thing's going to happen to you. Because this is the difference from you being just a superpower inside of your niche, being a dominant force, especially once we actually put the omnipresent stuff into play. So you're getting this stuff done. I mean, you can get this stuff done pretty quickly. Most of the people that come into the relevancy engine, we get it done in the first couple of weeks. A lot of the time, it just takes a few days. But that is in a nutshell relevancy. Now, question probably at this point is, Scott, how does that help me, specifically with an offer, launching a product, launching, anything at the end of the day? Well, at the end of the day, if you go out marketing to your Facebook group or your audience or your email list and you don't have that stuff done, what's going to happen is, again, no one's going to see this as being a relevant offer for them. And if they don't see a relevant offer, you're done. It's doomsday. There's no 6-figure, there's no 5-figure, there's no 4-figure event because just nothing's going to happen. Now, I want to get into the kind of omnipresence side. And I call this the omnipresence blast. Okay. So, let's say you're going to be launching a new product, a new offer. Let's say it's going to be, for namesake, $10,000. And you're looking for 12 people. Of course, you're looking for $120,000 in generated revenue, which will probably end up being $40,000 a month for 3 months. Now, for the most part, if you have any type of audience, you have a few different audiences. You have an audience of people that are on your email list, on your personal Facebook, on your business Instagram or Facebook, that have watched videos, that perhaps are in your Facebook group, or have engaged with you online in some way. Now, a lot of people have a lot more of this than you actually would think, right? So, when it comes to email, you can literally go over to, let's say you have no email address, you can go over to LinkedIn and download those contacts. You can download the contacts that are inside of your Google, right? Right from the get-go, most people I find have a couple thousand LinkedIn contacts, and most people have emailed quite a few people in their Gmail account, instantly giving you an actual audience of people that you may be relevant to. I mean, it's amazing. I have people all the time I haven't heard from in 4 years that I'm now relevant to that, are now buying from me, all because of omnipresence. Now, the idea behind the omnipresence blast is essentially, we know, let's say that, the day is May the 20th or May the 29th or the 30th. Let's say you knew you were going to launch something on July the 1st, okay? Or let's actually say July the 4th, because that would be a dumb idea. And so, that's also a dumb idea, because that's a U.S. holiday. Let's call it July the 10th. So, overall, what we want to do is we want to get your content, and I'll talk about this in a second, I'll talk about the relevancy grid in a second, but what we want to do is, for the 3 or 4 weeks before we're going to get people onto a webinar, or in a Facebook group, or on your application page, or whatever, we want to re-engage your audience with your content. So we want to go to them and we want to show them, and we'll get into this in a second, we want to show them PR, we want to show them your top 10 tips for this, the 7 ways to do this, the 4-step process for this. We want to show them content, we want to show them videos. We essentially do, and we do this inside of Relevancy Engine, we do this inside of Project Nuclear, where we create this omnipresence kind of grid. Okay, so in the first 10 days we showed this content, from day 10 to 30 we showed this content, 30 to 60 this content, and 60 plus this content. Well, what we're doing inside of this launch method, okay, inside of this launch area when you're putting this new offer out there, is we're going to anybody that you have any level, like they visited, also anyone that visited your website. We're going to go to these people and we're just going to be in front of them over and over and over and over and over again. No sales. Don't need an opt-in, don't need a challenge, don't need any of this type of stuff, okay? For the most part, if you're listening to this, you probably have a sophisticated audience. Sophisticated audiences do not need long challenges, do not need long lead magnets. They need things, they need to know exactly where they're to, and they need to see where they're going. And then in between them, the gap, is what, of course, they're going to pay you the money to be able to condense that gap. So, this omnipresence blast essentially goes out at minimum 3 weeks before you're looking to essentially launch. And so what happens if we're looking at 5 weeks, for example? So let's say we were looking at essentially 5 weeks, all right? You would do your omnipresence in here which would be activating the relevancy grid, and I'll show that to you. I'll show you in a little bit of detail that in a minute. And then in here, we're going to be so basically, week 1 to 3, we're going to do omnipresence. Week 4, we're going to do a conversion event, such as live training or opening the actual, saying, hey, listen, we have this new program, but this is for this is for that. And then into week 5, we're going to essentially run any type of testimonials we can do or any type of past results you've had with other maybe private clients, as well as actually being able to get people on a phone call, okay? So in week 1 to 4, we'll focus on that first, and then we'll, of course, focus on week 4 and 5. Now, inside of week 1 to 3, here's kind of show you the sort of the omnipresence in a nutshell, okay? Now, we have an entire mechanism for this that I don't have time to go in today. At some point, I'll probably, go into it in a live training or something. But essentially, omnipresence content, there's 13 different buckets of content, okay, that you can show to people. Now, when we are doing an omnipresence blast, we're literally putting all the content out there. We don't care who sees what. We're not trying to be fancy. We get a little bit fancier later on down the road when we go to evergreen. But this is only an audience that probably knows who you are, what your name is. So we have, pieces of content like PR. We have, things that could be case studies. We have things such as authority posts. Authority posts such are something like 11 ways you can use Facebook to do this, or the 7-step process to do that. There's personal philosophy types of posts. There's lifestyle. So lifestyle is quite literally, here's how I, essentially live my life. A life, essentially principle. That's not taking a picture in front of a Lamborghini. It's more along the lines of this is what's important to me, whether it be family or your significant other. Personal philosophy is this is what I believe. This is my value system. And then, of course, there's essentially 13 of these. So you essentially are putting these 13 together, and you're extracting perhaps content you've sent out to your email list, that you've put on Instagram, you put on Facebook. You can go to fancyhands.com, and you can get them to go through all of your social media content, rank all of the engagement from top to bottom. Go to scottoldford.com. There's a great post on there that actually gives you the entire template. It's a 4,900-word article that shows you exactly how to do all of the actual pieces. Really, 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 really cool. So that is that. And so basically you're putting this on Facebook as an advertising, essentially an ad. So you're probably going to have 30 different ads, 15 to 30 different ads that are going to go to this entire little tiny audience over and over and over and over again, okay? And with this going over and over again, you just basically, and again, if you know you're relevant, you know who your audience is and everything else, you would be putting the wording choice inside of these, right? You would have testimonials that look like the person that you're trying to attract. Now, none of this is trying to sell anything. None of this is trying to get a conversion. You're literally just trying to get impressions. Remember, what is inside our mind once it goes past 12 impressions becomes almost our new reality. By the time something's seen 50 times, it becomes either truth or complete BS. There is no line in the middle, okay? It's either yes or it is no. It's binary, 0 and 1, and that's what we want to create, because of course we're going to go back to this audience after week 3, and we're going to start getting these people on phone calls. We're going to start showing this person what is actually relevant to them, okay? Now, this is sort of Facebook. All right, this is kind of Facebook advertising. You're going to do this inside of email. You're going to start sending emails with perhaps the same type of content. You're going to put, if you have a Facebook group, you're going to put this same type of content in a Facebook group on your personal Facebook. Every single day, you're going to be posting these different types of things, or whatever frequency it may be. Again, the idea of it is that you aren't selling anything, you are teasing. You're getting people to go from pain problem, accepting it, to looking at a potential process or methodology, seeing you as the fact that, you know what, this person actually knows their stuff about this, and then of course, we're going to be going to solution, which of course is your opportunity to essentially work with you. Now, let's go through a Facebook group. My recommendation is, unless you have a very specific, unless your Facebook group is based upon the specific avatar, positioning, messaging, that you start a brand new Facebook group on day one of this whole omnipresence thing and say, this is for this type of person, right? Now, the reason for that is you may have 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 members or even a couple hundred members in a current Facebook group, but the context of which you are seen is the context of which you will be remembered by. Now, what I mean by this is if you go back to your hometown, how are you remembered by? Are you remembered by, being a successful entrepreneur? Or are you remembered by the kid that picked his nose in grade 3? Right? People remember your past based upon your past, and you have to redefine the context in order to get them to then see you as the authority and have a positioning. So I recommend a brand new Facebook group that you can essentially be bringing people into via your omnipresence ads, via your email list, and then continually being able to create dialogue. Again, remember, ROI, intimacy. Intimacy is the 3 C's: community, conversation, and connection. All 3 of those things can happen very easily inside of a Facebook group, which is why I recommend them so much, especially when they're in the context of an overall marketing strategy. Now, inside of this Facebook group, one of the best things to be able to do, and this is for conversion, okay? So you're posting content, you're posting everything else. The best thing to be able to do to get as many people on a live training or on a phone call is this. So you want to post one. So imagine that this is sort of over the span of 7 days, okay? Now, you actually may see this on a day-to-day basis inside of the ROI group. You may not actually notice it before, but you may notice it now. This is how I essentially create a scenario where there's more people on the live stream than wouldn't be on the live stream. So the very first thing is, actually let me back up for a second. There's 6 major types of posts you want to do in a Facebook group. We have lifestyle, personal story, personal philosophy, results share, ask, invitation. Now, essentially, what you want to do in post 1, this is essentially what you want to do. For day 1, you want to do a personal story, okay? Meaning something that's going to relate to perhaps a live training that you're going to do, or the fact that you're opening a program or whatever it would be. So I'll give you an example. Back in October, my personal story was, I just blew up a multi-million-dollar business, and here's why. Then I followed the next day and the next series of days with personal philosophy. And the personal philosophy was, I'm done with just selling information. I want to sell transformation. Further than that, I don't want to manipulate. I want to illuminate. And third, I played the long game, not the short game. From there, I also had kind of lifestyle. So at the same time, now I don't recommend doing this, but I went nomadic. I don't recommend blowing your life up, your business up, everything else to do this. I think it was great. In my scenario, it was the best decision of my entire life. But something that is based upon this inside of your lifestyle. Now, then what you want to do is you want to ask, hey, if I was thinking, or I had a discussion with a client, and I have this really cool process that will show you how to do X. Would you be interested if I shared this with you? Comment below. And of course, you're going to get a flood of the people that have been seeing your omnipresence content, your different pieces of content. They see and they look up to you. And I do this every single time I do training. You probably responded to at least one. You're probably here because of it. Then what you want to do is you want to results share in between the next couple of days. And then you want to do an invitation of saying, okay, I'm going to do it at this date. Tag all the people that were back here that asked. And of course, they're seeing the results share in the meantime. Now, if you scroll back on the newsfeed, you've probably seen 2 testimonial videos that I did in the last couple of days. As a note, testimonial videos and results share get massively low results for engagement, but massively high results on actual video view time and or actual engagement. But people don't want to associate their name to that actual piece of content, so they will not like or comment on it on a typical Facebook group. Especially if you're highly sophisticated people won't. If you're, for example, serving Tai Lopez's ads, it would either drive a lot of engagement or a lot of negativity. Not just because it's Tai Lopez, just unsophisticated people typically have more negativity than positivity in my experience. So that's essentially how you would get people with a Facebook group. And if you look at it, you can do the exact same thing by email. You can do the exact same thing in any other channel, whether maybe you have a messenger bot, or maybe you have a YouTube channel or whatever it may be. Overall, we're connecting essentially two different sides. We're connecting you as a person, amplifying your unfair advantage, and then we're amplifying the specific process or what you may necessarily teach in order to bring people in. Now, the idea of it is that you would be either doing a live training, or you would be releasing a piece of content, like an actual nice piece of content, or you're just bringing people to essentially an application. What I find, of course, is the fact that, both of these are pretty effective. This one here, just application, will require some level of intimacy. People need context in order to jump on a phone call. They need to understand the gap, and one of the best ways to allow people to understand the gap is, of course, live training or content, so on and so forth. Again, I'm not going to go through on how to have a live training today. Honestly, I think I'm one of the worst people on planet Earth to teach anyone how to do a live training, because I literally go against every rule book there is. I just kind of show up and I do end up just teaching. And if I didn't teach, I'd probably get more money, but honestly, I just enjoy doing this. So fuck it. So that is the Facebook group. And so then, if you're looking to context switch this into email, you're essentially, the only difference is that with email, you can get someone to actually click a link and sign up. On Facebook, it's difficult to get someone to click a link and sign up. It's a technical nightmare. I haven't figured it out yet. When I do, I'll let you know. But with email, you can do the exact same sort of thing. But the difference is you may need to put all these pieces into one email. Now, here's a little framework for emails. Basically, every email that I do I won't say every email. I'll say a great template is to open up with context of why you're in their inbox. Open up then with what the pain is that they perhaps have, what opportunity they have to no longer be in that pain. You can, of course, circumvent result here or there. You then want to give a carrot of what life could be like thereafter that's related to the opportunity, that of course is related to the pain, with a direct CTA along with what they're actually going to be learning, if it's a live training, or if it's going to be an actual application call, what they're going to go through the application call. You want to then put a result. If you want to jump on a call just like Sonny did this, or just like David did this, or whatever it may be. And then, of course, a CTA after the result again. And then I do close with some type of story. And then you can essentially repeat. Now, here's the problem. Most people actually just do an email on pain or just do an email on opportunity. You want to make it so that every single email brings someone through the pain, so they see the vision, they see the gap, and then, of course, they see the commitment, which is actually clicking on the link. Because at the end of the day, if you send 4 emails, the person's only going to open one. You only get one opportunity. So you want to use this entire framework essentially in every single email. Now, there's different versions of this based on what you're doing, whether it's a webinar or application call, that type of thing. I won't go into that today. But overall, there's kind of some variation of this in every single email that you essentially write. So that's a Facebook group. That is email. Basically what's going to happen, as I said, so week 1 to 3 is the omnipresence. Whether it be email, paid Facebook, Facebook group. Week 4 to 5, you're essentially going to be like, there's essentially a couple different core messages that you need to put in front of someone. You need a results share message, solution, pain, and direct CTA. All right, so here's the difference of this. Results share is basically like, look at this other person that's done it. You're obviously far more superior than this person, so if this person can do it, you can do it. I'm giving you quite honestly what people think. I'm not saying that that's what I personally believe, but I'm just saying that that's what people actually think. So what we've actually found is that the worse the result, the higher the call to action. Because if results are too good, like we had someone come in the relevancy engine and they did $500,000 in 90 days. That ad's not doing that well because it's unbelievable, right? But we had another person, Rachel and Ross, they came in, they were at 20, 30,000, and from September, they went from 20, 30,000, October, they went from October, somewhere around there, somewhere in fall, 20 to 30,000, and last month they had their first $90,000 month. Well, that's a little bit more, you can be like, okay, that sounds reasonable, right? So that ad's actually doing a lot better. So that's results share. Solution is directly talking about exactly how the program or what you have actually works for them. Say, I have this brand new thing, it's a mentorship program, and in 90 days, I'm going to help you go from here to there, and basically go into actually explaining what that is. Now, I don't know if it is a good idea to be able to get on a phone call, but I guarantee you if we do, we're going to be able to go through and see if this is a good fit for you. The pain is essentially going back to directly why they would be, even thinking about getting on a phone call with you to start out with. And a direct CTA is, hey, listen, let's get on a phone call. Now, obviously, these two end up being later on after, week 4, right? And these here are more at the beginning, right? So it doesn't matter if you're doing this on Facebook ads, it doesn't matter if you're doing this on a Facebook group, it doesn't matter if you're doing this on email, anywhere. That's the kind of the core messaging that we're going to be sort of sharing. Now, I recommend never sharing a price before somebody's on a phone call. I also don't recommend telling exactly how the process works in terms of the actual process of the program. Meaning, you don't want to say, well, you're going to have a one-on-one call every single week. You're going to have this every single week. There is a lure in the mystique, right? The mystique is what we all want. We all want to peer behind the curtain, the behind the scenes. And so in many ways, we want to make it so that other people feel like they're kind of being like, well, what does this look like for me? And we want to ensure that we capture that allure and we capture the mystique of ourselves, that we can, of course, then use that to turn that into actual customers. Now, my recommendation from there is essentially for sales is to get them on an application page, all right? So the idea of an application page is to make it short, to make it simple, to have some testimonials on it. If you can, you don't have to. And again, the testimonials, if you're doing this right, the testimonials are for your method or you, not the actual program. Later on, we'll get to the program. Obviously, testimonials for a specific program are more powerful, but they aren't required. And the application page, the idea of it is they submit an application, 10 to 15 questions, and then from there, you can have some logic in that. If you think you're going to have a lot of applications, use some logic where it says, well, if this is this, then I don't want the phone call. But if this is this, yeah, definitely give me that phone call. And from there, a lot of the time, I always recommend get on any phone call. It's all market research. Record it so that when you hire a salesperson later, of course, they can come in and be able to understand your style and how you sell and all these different types of things. So then, how do you sell the invisible? How do you take it so that you sell the invisible? There's a great video on my YouTube. I don't remember what it is, but I think it might be the 4-step sales process. It's borrowed from my good friend Jesse Elder. Actually, having a phone call with him right after this. And essentially helps you understand how to go from the pain to the vision to the gap to the commitment on the phone. But I always recommend, if you're going to start, say, sale calls on June the 25th, you want to make it so that there's at least 3 weeks for your actual program, because likely at the beginning, your program's not going to be evergreen. Now later on, and again, the video I'm going to release tomorrow shows you exactly how to create an evergreen program. But the first iteration and the second iteration of the relevancy engine, there was 2 cohorts. There was the October cohort, the November cohort, and then by December, we created an entire evergreen system so that we could bring people in at any given time within 48 hours, 24 to 48 hours from the time that they actually paid us money, and was able to actually integrate them and start their mentorship. At the beginning, I don't recommend that because you're going to break everything at the beginning. There's going to be more intimacy. There's going to be more problems. There's going to be, there's a vast amount of problems. Everyone kind of looks at lead generation and marketing and sales as the problem. Well, there's an entire other problem when you have someone's money and you have to deliver a specific transformation and result. And of course, after you go through this 4, 5, 6 week process, now you're going to have a 4, 5, 6 week process of trying to figure out all the, shit that's there. My recommendation, don't try to figure that out until you have it sold. And so then essentially you're just going to, continually basically have messaging around, selling. And then as soon as you have those spots filled, as soon as you have those people into the program, we had someone that did this exact process, less than 4 weeks, sold $50,000 into the program. For them, it was the fact that they wanted to go lower price. I think they should have did it at $8,000 to $10,000. They did it at $5,000. However, they got over $50,000 of sales. They didn't even go to their entire email list. They didn't go to anything. They just went to their past people that bought. Right? So they haven't even got their email list, haven't went to their Facebook group. Nobody else knows about it because he was also running the separate business. Again, you can't easily do 6 figures with this. However, in his case, he wanted to make it smaller. He just had a kid, had a lot of different types of things, and he wanted to keep it a little bit smaller. But now, once that's evergreen in the next 6 to 8 weeks, he's going to be able to bring in 10 to 15 people per month at around $8,000 a month, or $8,000, which is going to create this a really, really great system. Which brings us to turning this evergreen. This is great to be able to get some cash in the door, be able to test a new product, validate it, all these different types of things. But you have to turn it evergreen, because if not, you don't have a business. Yeah, I mean, anything that is not evergreen is not sustainable. Anything that doesn't require you, does require you, is not sustainable. Now, that isn't to give you shame for the fact that it may not be sustainable, but what it should give you at least is the fact that a good kick in the butt that you have to make it sustainable, because if not, you're never going to have a business. You're never going to be able to have a life. You know, I believe that entrepreneurs should work no more than 26 hours a week on their business, and the rest of the time they should be thinking and innovating and creating and just being themselves, being a human being instead of being a human being. I mean, we're literally a human doing. I think in many ways we as society have gotten to being human doings more than beings. I think entrepreneurs, our job is to be human beings so that we can think and create and innovate and iterate. So the sooner you can get there, the better. And of course, it's much easier to be there when you're at 7 figures plus than when you're kind of at 20, 30,000 trying to figure out what the heck you're doing all day. So that is really the core essence of all of this. And I don't know if Joanna, if you can put up the application page, our application page, but I'd love, this is the exact process we bring people through, or about the same process we bring people through inside of the relevancy engine, which is for people that are at $20,000 plus that either have a higher ticket program that want to scale, which this doesn't really apply to, but it does apply to you perhaps if you're really good at what you do and you want to be able to apply it to a high ticket sort of scenario. And so from there, I lost my pen. From there, we essentially in 90 days bring you through the process of being able to do this, being able to get it out there, being able to, of course, get that from a delivery perspective, and then making it evergreen with sort of all the pieces in between. And that really, at the end of the day, is how you create, a program that's out there. Couple of notes, couple of pieces. In lack of perfection, increase intimacy. So if it takes you introducing every single person that comes into your group individually, one of the things that we do, we individually, when we add people to the ROI group, when it's 3,000 people, we individually actually message them. Be like, hey, what's up? How can I help? Of course, that leads to a lot of sale conversations. That leads to a lot of ability of people being like, oh, this is interesting. There's intimacy here. Human connection is kind of the biggest kind of card for being able to actually drive sales, being able to drive what it is. Don't feel bad doing that. There's a tool called Contactually. This actually allows you to individually send emails in a mass way to people, such as being able to help them show up to webinars, show up, you can extract your email list and just ask them, hey, what's new? What's going on? In this process, don't think that you're kind of too big for your britches. At the end of the day, you do need to get 8 to 12 sales for this new program, maybe even 15 sometimes. And sometimes you have to kind of open up the playbook of the past, the playbook of intimacy. And don't feel too big to be able to necessarily do that. It's something that I still do at the end of the day. And from this, later on you may not need to do that. Chances are you won't need to do that, right? Unless it's part of your business model. However, for right now, you don't have an automated system to be able to generate you appointments. You don't have an automated system to generate you kind of, people that actually want to work with you. So you have to extract out of your current audience those people that are relevant to you. And if you can then, from the relevant messaging, positioning, and offer, be able to be omnipresent to those people in the time in which leading up to the point where you can actually say you can help them, then it's going to have a huge impact, which of course, intimacy is kind of sealing the deal, allowing it so you don't have to feel so salesy and you can rather feel kind of congruent with what you're essentially doing. So that in a nutshell is how to make this happen, how to make this work. And there's a lot of nuance and there's a lot of different pieces that are inside. I would love to be able to help you, get you on a phone call with Brad on our team to see if it's a good fit for us to be able to work with you. But regardless, if you're wanting to be able to really up-level the product offering you have and what you're doing, I would absolutely 100% at least try this. At the worst case scenario, you make $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 that you didn't. And now you have a new product that you can turn evergreen. And of course, I guarantee you, it is much easier being able to go into a marketplace with a product that's $10,000 and being able to take $2,000 and advertise than it is to take a $1,000 product and only be able to spend $200. In my experience, it's been far easier to get someone to spend $10,000 with me than it's ever been to get someone to spend $1,000. And the customers that spend $10,000 are a heck of a lot happier, a heck of a lot better, a heck of a lot everything. Our retention has been massive. Our ability to increase lifetime value has been massive. Our ability to actually create transformation between something that was lower end and higher end has been massive. And so this is really the model of allowing anybody to be able to do this. Again, if you're going to do this with, for example, no audience, it will cost you money because you're going to bring completely cold leads. However, everything stays the same. You still run the omnipresence. You still do all of the actual pieces. The only piece that you change is the fact that you're going to a completely cold audience. So you do have to factor in the fact that more than likely you're going to need somewhere between $3,000 to $10,000 in advertising cost if you have no audience. But again, with $100,000 plus upside, I really do think that it may be a leap that you do want to take. So that is it, my friends. That is how you can do a six-figure launch for a high-ticket, high-touch program. And of course, I highly recommend at least giving it a try sooner than later, because I did this by mistake, and I keep doing. Actually, I did this. I won't say I did by mistake. I kept on doing this with clients, and then I kept seeing the clients do it, and I was just like, well, when I blew everything up, I'm like, well, let's try it on my end, and it worked famously well. It generated us far more than $100,000 from the start in the first 30 days. And I know after seeing so many of the clients that we have use it, I know it can certainly work for you as well.
So if you enjoyed this content and you want more of it, make sure you go ahead and subscribe. And if you want other entrepreneurs just like you to be able to also access this information, this knowledge, make sure you go ahead and share it with someone that means the most to you. Remember, as entrepreneurs, it's our job to be able to help other entrepreneurs continue to elevate, allowing us to evolve society and evolve our world. I'll see you next time. Bye.